Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bill Sokol. I'm an attorney in Haddonfield, New Jersey. I'm the owner of the Sokol Law Firm. We've been in business for almost 15 years. We specialize in real estate law, so we do everything you would expect real estate lawyers to handle. We represent buyers and sellers in residential real estate transactions. We attend closing and we draft lots of legal documents for real estate. But what I'm really known for is handling short sale transactions and helping distressed homeowners. And since I started doing short sales, my office has successfully closed over 3,000 short sale transactions. With me today, I have a realtor who I know and trust and have closed a couple deals with myself. His name is James Hughes. He's with Compass Realty in Montclair. So James, if you want to take a moment and introduce yourself, please.
Yes, my name is James Hughes. I'm a broker salesperson at Compass in Montclair. I operate a team of agents, and we serve primarily the six northern counties in New Jersey, but we've worked our way down even as far as Burlington County. But our primary focus is in the six northern counties, and especially in Essex County, where we're headquartered.
Great. Yeah, one of the things I do, James, as you probably know, because we've done it in the past, is I travel from office to office in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, where I'm licensed, teaching realtors the ins and outs and the pros and cons of doing short sale transactions for their clients. And I've been doing a lot of them ever since the pandemic struck. And it seems like interesting timing because on one hand, the country's experiencing unprecedented levels of unemployment and distress. But on the other hand, the real estate market is at a boom that hasn't been seen since before the financial crisis. So a lot of realtors will ask me, hey, Bill, how could you possibly see an increase in short sales when we're dealing with a market where buyers are consistently paying $40,000, $50,000 over list price?
Right, right. And I could see how people would have that question. Part of why we're having the boom that we're having, as you know, is we have historically low interest rates. We have COVID. And because so many people are uncertain about their job prospects or their financial future that are in forbearance, we have properties that are not on the market. So we have a lack of inventory. It's those people that are probably calling you because we have one we're working on right now where the guy kicked the can down the road as far as he could go and can't go any further. And then so people uncertain about their prospects that may still be upside down on their house based on what they owe. Maybe they bought it back in the other boom. Maybe they've cashed out and pulled equity out prior to then going into forbearance and now losing their job or whatever. But we're going to have a lot of this. We're going to have this starting to happen where you see people that are upside down on their mortgage or distressed, and they're going to need sound advice in this area.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up an excellent point. Forbearance is a term we're probably going to use multiple times during this kind of freestyle conversation that we're having today. But yeah, I mean, I'm seeing an increase already as well. I mean, the first 4 months of this year have been busier than the first 4 months of the prior 2 years. I'm big on data and analysis. Being a business owner, I want to make sure we have enough business coming in at all times. And we certainly keep track of the amount of closings we've had. And, obviously we're nowhere near we were, in 2014, 15, 16, and 17, which are my busiest years. But we're still seeing an increase in the number of short sales we're doing. And for anybody who's viewing, who doesn't know what a short sale is, it's a real estate transaction where you can't sell it at a price high enough to satisfy your mortgage. We've seen an increase in the first quarter of this year. But forbearance is really what I want to focus on because we have a lot of homeowners still in forbearance or just coming out of forbearance, and they may not know where to turn. And I don't want these people to make the same mistake that my clients did during the financial crisis. Because what people are going to end up doing is because their mortgage lender or servicer was so kind to them in putting them in the forbearance program, little did they know they were federally required to do so. So they're going to call the mortgage company again and say, look, my forbearance is coming to an end. What are my options here? Now, for all the people who were able to get out of forbearance because they either lost their job or were furloughed and then went back to making the same money they were making before COVID, great for them. And they can go back to making their normal monthly payment and they're not going to need us. But there are a large number of people who are because they can't get out of forbearance and they haven't gone back to their pre-COVID employment status or their pre-COVID employment salary. So what they're going to do is they're going to call their mortgage company and ask for help. And what the mortgage company is going to do is they're going to offer them something called a loan modification, which again, look, loan modifications on paper and for certain people are great options. A loan modification is a permanent modification of your existing mortgage and note, hopefully making your payment more affordable, allowing you to stay in the house. The problem with loan modifications, and especially the number of people who are going to be requesting them, is you can't depend on your mortgage servicer to be looking out for your best interest. They are not your attorney or your realtor. They represent somebody else. Okay, they're looking out for that individual's interest, not yours. So a lot of times they're going to say, yeah, sure, apply for a loan modification. That's the next step. The same thing happened during the financial crisis. But if the financial crisis has taught us anything, the people coming out of forbearance, applying for loan modifications, are going to get stuck in a vicious circle of sending in paperwork, following up their lender, only to find out 6 or 7 months later they don't qualify for the loan modification because their income is not sufficient. I want people to avoid that same problem as they did back in the financial crisis. Back then, almost everyone I spoke to said, well, Bill, I tried to do a loan modification. It didn't work out. Now I got to do a short sale. Why waste your time? If you're not going to be approved for a loan modification or it's not a viable option, don't do it. How do you know if it's a viable option or not? By calling people like us, right? Calling you or calling me. I mean, we can guide these people as to what their best option is going to be. We care for these people. The mortgage company does not.
Well, that's true. And what they end up doing is they mislead the consumer by giving them hope that they're going to modify the loan, when in fact, all they do, the purpose of them doing it is to check a box to say that they've offered it to you, knowing for sure that in most cases that the people just on the facts won't qualify for it. And so they further deepen the hole that they're in by kicking that can down the road, looking for this modification that's never going to happen.
Yeah, essentially eating more into whatever equity they may have had. You have to remember, forbearance is not forgiveness. I can't take the credit for coining that phrase, but I mean, homeowners have to understand that when you're in forbearance, you're going to have to pay the money back. So if you miss 15 months of mortgage payments in your forbearance, you're not going to have to pay back a lump sum when your forbearance is over. But when you go to sell your home or you want to refinance your mortgage, you are going to have to. So essentially, forbearance is allowing you to borrow against equity you may or may not have. When you come out of forbearance and you're applying for that loan modification, which may take additional months, yes, you're eating additionally into that equity, which is another reason why there's going to be a flood of short sales coming. Sure, people are paying over listing price and over asking price now, but and they may continue to do so, but that doesn't do any good. Is even if you're over asking price, still doesn't satisfy the mortgage that payoff that needs to be had. So and again, just back to picking on mortgage companies and mortgage servicers. I mean, these are facts. Wells Fargo was allegedly putting people into forbearance without their permission. I mean, that's insane. If they ever did that to me, please, I wouldn't be able to deal with it. You can't put somebody in forbearance without permission. Another thing is I have proof that a lot of my clients will lose their job or go through some other sort of financial hardship, and they'll call their mortgage company. And the mortgage company says, look, we have a loan modification option for you. However, you're still current with your mortgage. If you missed a few payments, we might be able to help you. I mean, you know how crazy that is, that your bank is telling you not to pay your mortgage, and people fall into that trap and they do it. And now they call me a year later because they're in default and they need to get rid of their house and they need to do a short sale. So one of the things I really want to, the kind of message I want to spread is, look, we're going to have to work with your mortgage company one way or another, but don't follow them blindly. Talk to professionals. I don't even care if it's me. Talk to another lawyer, right? But
it's a six-figure decision. It's in the consumer is best advised to get a professional second opinion, even if the mortgage person is saying something that they want to hear.
Yeah, I mean, and look, obviously, as a lawyer, I have a fiduciary duty to my clients, and I have to put their needs above my own, and so on and so forth. As a broker, realtor, owner, you don't. But for the people watching, I just want to say that James might as well have a fiduciary duty to his clients. We worked on a short sale. We had a short sale that we worked on that we couldn't get approved. I don't recall the reason why it didn't work out, but it didn't work out. So the homeowners wanted to switch it to a deed in lieu of foreclosure, right? Well, when we switched it, you ended up forfeiting any commission because it's no longer a sale and it's now They're paying me a fee, a legal fee to do a legal job. So you had no more skin in the game. You had no incentive to a fee. I didn't give you any money for the referral. Nothing happened out of it. But yet you still followed up with me every week to find out what happened to my past clients. Bill, what's going on with my past clients? I mean, you didn't have to do that. You're clearly busy as, you know, a broker, owner, and realtor. I mean, but you did. So, you know, I think that speaks volumes about how much you care for your clients. So I certainly wouldn't have any issues with people coming out of forbearance calling you first and rather than me, because you're going to be able to give them some basic advice. And if you can't, you'll refer them over my way.
I appreciate you acknowledging that. And I'm glad that my team was here to hear that, because a lot of times in a hot market, agents will lose sight of the reason why we're doing what we're doing. And we are public servants. Yeah, we're all here, and, you know, people want to make money and have all of these accolades, but we're public servants, and we do have a fiduciary responsibility to the people that sign agreements with us. So, you know, to that end, I wanted to see that this family who was struggling, and they were in the twilight of their lives, they were over leveraged on this mortgage. I wanted to see them, you know, move on peacefully. And even if it meant in that particular case, not taking a commission to see the right thing happen for them, somehow the universe circles it back to me. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, no, I certainly agreed. And just getting back to just the short sales for a moment. I mean, look, obviously, no one wants to sell their home involuntarily, right? Everyone wants to, given the chance, keep their home, but you have to think about it from a logical perspective. You know, people will call my office and say, "Hey, Bill, look, you know, I lost my job, and, you know, my bank offered me a loan modification. You know, I'm looking into hiring you to solve that for me." So unlike their mortgage company, who does no upfront work whatsoever about qualifications, I talk to them. You know, "Hey, look, what's your mortgage? What's your interest rate right now? 3%. Well, what are they going to modify your loan to? -2, right? I mean, your interest rate's already low. So the chances of your payment being affordable is going to be rare, right? I don't know how much more they can do to help you out. Or I'll talk to somebody and I'll say, you know, what were you making before your hardship? You know, 7,000 a month. What are you making now? 700 a week. Well, forget a loan modification, right? Not only could you not afford your prior payment, you can't afford any payment, right? Your mortgage company is not going to reduce your payment by 70%, right? We're talking maybe a few $100 with an interest rate reduction or an extension of payment terms or so on and so forth. So, you know, even though you really want to keep your house, you have to look at it logically. And if you're not going to be able to have a reasonable attempt to do so, you're going to want to list it and you're going to want to sell it. And look, hopefully you still have equity, right? So hopefully you still have equity in this crazy market. You can hire James, you can get it sold, and you can be done. And look, if you don't have equity and you don't have cash to bring to closing, then I'll step in and negotiate with your mortgage company so you don't have to bring that money. And that's essentially where it's going to end up. So, other than that, another question I get asked, which I think me and you see eye to eye when we both agree that at some point the shoe is going to drop and things are going to get substantially worse. I mean, listen, we both know no market stays up forever. Stock market, real estate market, cryptocurrencies, everything's up and down. There's been historic real estate crashes all throughout the century in the United States. One question I get asked a lot is, when do you think this is going to happen?
So my 2 cents is that, you know, as the courts open back up and they allow the foreclosure process. We have, in New Jersey, we had a couple years worth of foreclosures in the pipeline when the court shut down. All of that's going to get accelerated.
They're just sitting there right now.
Yeah, all of that's going to get accelerated through. Then you have the stuff that once the forbearances and all of this stuff starts to, you know, be lifted, that's going to hit the market. So I anticipate, you know, I've been telling agents to get their short sale game up and to anticipate that maybe not this year, but I'd say that, you know, maybe as we get towards the end of the year, first quarter next year, definitely in 2022, we're gonna see an influx of short sales and foreclosures. Yeah, it's got to come to a head at some point, and then couple that with the rise of interest rates. It's going to create, I think, at some point, we've got to pay for all of these programs that are being uh, 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 given away by the government, somehow it's got to get paid for, and it's going to get paid for by who? The consumer. So I think it's in the best interest of the person in distress to see what their home is worth now, mitigate as much of the loss as possible while we're at the top of the market and values are high, so that they could regroup. And then a year or two from now, they could probably buy again. I'm gathering it's probably about a year and a half, 2 years, right, before they could buy again.
Yeah, it's just certainly for a homeowner doing a short, so it's going to be at least 2 years, if not a little bit longer,
2 years.
depending on loan types and the outgoing loan versus the incoming loan and things of that nature. But I do generally agree with your timeline, and obviously we need the federal protections to come to a screeching halt for things to really take off, and let's not forget about all the evictions that haven't been held yet. All those property owners or investors who haven't been getting paid by their tenants, they may end up in foreclosure as well, or may end up in some sort of loss mitigation program too, because right now there's no way to get really not much of a way to get tenants out of a property if they're not paying. So
It's impossible. I spoke to an attorney yesterday that's exclusively represented landlords, prior to COVID, and he said he's not doing it anymore. It's just impossible to get people out. And so because there's so much advocacy for tenants, he's going to tenant representation,
sure.
Means that you're going to have a lot of distressed investors that will be putting homes on the market, because, who's going to keep paying a mortgage for a property that they're not getting the income on?
Sure. And another thing too, I'm really hopeful that the government puts more pressure on mortgage servicers to be either quicker or more reasonable with approving short sales. The same thing happened during the financial crisis. The government tried to force mortgage companies to be more responsive to people. It didn't really work out. A lot of mortgage servicers ended up getting fined by the CFPB and so on, but nothing really came from it. But right now, the National Association of Realtors, which I'm pretty sure I'm a member of, even though I'm not actually a realtor because I get their emails all the time, is putting a lot of pressure and working with the CFPB to put pressure on mortgage companies, banks, and servicers to make the short sale a more viable option for people coming out of forbearance. So even big associations like NAR and the CFPB understand that the big answer for a lot of people coming out of forbearance isn't actually the modification, but the short sale option. And I'm hopeful. I mean, as far as people who are practicing real estate and doing short sales 10 years ago, there was a time when mortgage companies were paying enhanced relocation incentives to homeowners. So for anybody watching who's not familiar with this terminology, in a short sale situation, the mortgage company is taking a loss because we're selling the home and for less than what's owed, and the mortgage company is agreeing in writing to accept that as a final payoff. Mortgage companies provide incentives to homeowners to do these kinds of transactions. As now, it's typically around $3,000, which is barely enough to pay for a mover and a security deposit, if anything. But back in its heyday, there were situations where homeowners were getting $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000.
Yes.
I got one lady $55,000 at closing on a short sale, which is insane because, let's be honest. If you're doing a short sale, your compensation is the elimination of your debt obligation, right? We're going to make $50,000 or $100,000 disappear into thin air. You're never going to have to pay it. But to give the homeowner $50,000 on top of it is an insane result. And even though it only lasted for a few years, it did make the short sale an easier sell for a lot of people who maybe didn't want to move. So I'm hopeful that we see a resurgence of those enhanced relocation incentives in the future, because it'll certainly push people, guide them.
Guide them.
In the direction that's best for them, rather than having them cling on to the hopes of a loan modification. That's not really going to be.
Never going to happen. And I think you're right. I think especially because New Jersey is a judicial state and there's a process to go through to get to foreclosure. The bank has to go through a process. Given the backlog, that's going to be in the system, I think the debt servicers and the banks will be probably a little bit more interested in wheeling and dealing like they were back in 08, 09, 10, and 11. And you're right, there were a couple of instances. I remember where on a property up here in Newark, they gave the guy $32,000, and I was like, really? They gave him $32,000 to execute the short sale, and for him to move on to the next place. You could do a lot of moving with that much money. And so
it's only better than the $3,000 they've been providing ever since. But yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously, look, you don't have a crystal ball, and neither do I. So we never know what the future is going to hold. I mean, we may wake up tomorrow and the market crashes. It may not happen for 2 years. I mean, we don't know. But part of what we're going to do is get these videos out there in the out on the internet and in social media, so that people know who we are and that we're there to help. We'll do a couple more of these. We'll do some informative Q&As and some top 10 lists and things of that nature. So there'll be a little bit of a series of these going on, so we can get the word out there, spread as much as possible until the ball until everything drops out. So any thoughts? Go ahead.
No, that's the beauty of what, one of the, there are some positive byproducts to COVID. The last time that you and I saw each other, you drove all the way up to Montclair, almost 2 hours, to do a presentation to agents in my office. And some of those agents, I'm sure, have referred people to you. At least I hope that they did. I know that they learned a lot. The beauty of one of the things that came out of COVID is just what we're doing right here, on Zoom, where we could have this kind of impromptu conversation, and then we can broadcast it out to let people know. And so instead of you making that drive, I'm actually looking to put something together where we have not just my team who's in the room with me, but also other agents in my office or outside of my office that are operating in this space where we're gonna see it happen. I mean, it's just a matter of time.
Agreed. And just my parting thoughts to end this initial conversation back and forth. Look, if you're an agent out there and you're looking for a great team to work with, you're going to want to reach out to James. He's very knowledgeable about doing short sales and short sale transactions. And if you're a homeowner who happens to be watching this, we hope that you are, and you're in forbearance or about to get out of forbearance, we hope that you'll trust one of us more than you'll trust your mortgage company, as we're going to have your best interest in mind, and your mortgage company is clearly not going to. So, hopefully we can meet again soon over Zoom, James, and we'll schedule another one of these and help everybody out. Sound good?
Absolutely. Good to see you, man. We've been talking on the phone, but it's good to see you.
And I know we got a closing coming up Friday, which is great.
No, it's tomorrow. Isn't it tomorrow?
It's on my calendar for Friday, but who knows?
Okay.
Another benefit of COVID is the use of mailing for closing. So as much as I miss going to closing and seeing all the happy faces, I'm also happy sitting at my desk talking to you using UPS and FedEx instead too. So,
well, I got to thank you and your team for getting that one done. We had a very difficult client on our side, and Amber, Amber, and the rest of your team did a great job at kind of guiding him, to a nice resolution. I think the buyer's going to be happy. It's a win-win-win. It was such a process, but we got it done.
And clearly couldn't have done it without you as well. So thanks again, James. I'm going to be recording, and we'll talk again soon.